Hi everyone, this is Kalyan Kumar and welcome once again to Chemistry Universe. And this is part 10 of the isomerism series. We have looked at optical activity, we have looked at the molecules that are optically active, what kind of symmetry elements they don't have, what are the symmetry elements they can have. We said they were dissymmetric meaning they don't have the alternate axis of symmetry, which is the main thing that is required for a molecule to be optically inactive. If it doesn't have that, then it is optically active. And one of the cases of alternate axis of symmetry was the center of symmetry, and that was and the next one was the plane of symmetry. So these two are special cases of alternate axis of symmetry, but alternate axis of symmetry is the main thing that we need to look for. But in general, the molecules that we are going to get in our course, most of them can be judged by simply looking at the plane of symmetry or the center of symmetry. Now, having said all of that, we even looked at molecules which had even number of chiral centers, and despite having even number of chiral centers, they did not show optical activity. They were mesomers, and that was because one chiral center was compensating the optical activity of the other. One was R, the other was S. They were similar chiral centers, etc. In this video, we're going to look at certain very unique cases. The first that we're going to look at is a situation where a molecule has one chiral center, but it is not optically active. Now, if you remember in my previous video, where I was getting to give you a hang of optical activity, where I introduced chiral centers for you, I specifically said anything having one chiral carbon is optically active. Now, just try and understand the use of terminology that I'm changing right now. I am not calling anything as chiral carbon, I'm saying chiral center, meaning I can have atoms other than carbon also. So there are special instances where there are molecules which have a chiral center, but for some reason or the other, they are not optically active. So we're going to look at that. But these are very special cases, and you'll be able to know them just by looking at them. So it's not going to be that much of a problem. Then we look at cases where molecules are chiral despite not having a chiral carbon, but having a chiral center, meaning a chiral atom other than carbon. You could have nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur. We look at all those cases. Then we will also look at situations where you're not going to have any chiral center, no chiral carbon, no chiral any other atom, yet the molecule is chiral. Because remember, in the beginning I told you that the presence of a chiral center is neither a necessary nor a sufficient condition for a molecule to show chirality or optical activity. So we're going to look at all these cases in this, and then I'm going to give you some examples for you to figure out whether something is optically active or not. So let's get on with the show. This is part 10 of the isomerism series, and this is a chirality of molecules with chiral center and chirality of molecules without chiral center. So let's start with it. So the first thing that we're going to do is a chiral compounds with chiral center. So I'm going to show you a molecule which has chiral center but is not optically active. Now there are some compounds which do not show optical activity and which behave as chiral molecules though they have a chiral center. Remember, I'm mentioning the word a chiral center. That means one chiral center. We've already seen a situation where there were two chiral centers and yet the molecule was optically inactive. But having one chiral center and being optically inactive is something which is not that easy to comprehend and which is a little bit rare. This happens when one chiral form converts to another by physical rotation or flipping. Now, if you remember, when I was giving you an idea about carbon ions, I introduced the concept of flipping, which I'm sure you also read in chemical bonding. Flipping is a tendency of a pyramidal molecule to make its lone pair go above and below. It flips like an umbrella. It's also known as the umbrella effect. So we need to understand that there are these molecules which show umbrella effect, pyramidal molecules in which there are three atoms and one lone pair. It's basically tetrahedral geometry, but three atoms and one lone pair. We call it pyramidal. So these pyramidal molecules have a tendency to show flipping, umbrella inversion. And in doing so, what happens is each of those, if those three groups attached to that atom were different, and the fourth being the lone pair, that means all the four are different. So the molecule is going to be, that particular atom is going to be chiral center, and the molecule will be chiral. But since it flips, and when it flips, it becomes its mirror image. And this is a constant flipping. And both have the same energy. So the chances of finding one and the other are same. So you can always expect 50% of one form and 50% of another form. And therefore what happens is the optical rotation of one chiral molecule is cancelled by its flipped isomer. So let's take an example. I'm taking the example of a tertiary amine. R1, R2, R3 are different groups. And this is the lone pair. And when it flips, it becomes its enantiomer. So I'm going to show you this with an animation. As you can see, the geometry is tetrahedral, but the big one is a lone pair. You know, this one is a lone pair. And then it starts flipping. Now look what happens. As it flips, the lone pair becomes smaller and the antibonding starts becoming the lone pair. And this is the transition state. This is where you get the transition state exact middle. Now this transition is exactly in the middle because the other flipped inversion will be the same as the previous one in terms of energy. And as you can see, the flipping is happening. And now the lone pair completely comes on the opposite side and the other becomes the antibonding. That, again a tetrahedral geometry, that is umbrella inversion. So now let's go ahead. Now notice that nitrogen is a chiral center. Nitrogen is a chiral center attached to four different groups. So technically each of these molecules are chiral. So this is chiral and this is chiral, but they are mirror images. If you rotate this and try to superimpose, it won't, because when you rotate this, you know, when you rotate this, this goes up, and this entire thing comes down. So what it would look like would be somewhat like this. You know, the lone pair here, I'm flipping this. R3 comes here, R2 stays here, and R1 comes here. And when you slide over this, it's not going to, when you slide this over this, it's not going to superimpose. So, but since one enantiomer is converting to the other by physical process, at any given time, the number of molecules of one type will be equal to that of the other as the stabilities are equal. This makes this compound achiral. All tertiary amines with chiral nitrogen and the ability to flip will be chiral. Now the reason I'm using the word with chiral nitrogen is because obviously you need the other three groups R1, R2, R3 to be different. If these groups are not different, then obviously the nitrogen is not a chiral center, and therefore its inverted version would superimpose. Then I also use the word capable of flipping. Now you will wonder, wouldn't all tertiary amines be capable of flipping? No, because flipping decreases as the bulkiness increases. Number one. Number two, flipping decreases when there are rings. When R2, R3 are joined with a ring, then the chances of flipping decreases, especially if the rings are smaller. If the rings are bigger, then flipping can happen. And in some rings, it may happen not to that extent. So one may be more than the other. But if the rings are smaller, generally flipping won't occur. And in those cases, those tertiary amines will be optically active. So let's move ahead. Now let's look at chiral compounds with other types of chiral centers. Okay, other types of chiral centers. Now quaternary ammonium ions with chiral nitrogen atom are chiral. For example, look at this one. It's a quaternary ammonium. Now there is no lone pair, no question of flipping. And it is absolutely chiral. This is just like a tetrahedral carbon. Here it is nitrogen with a positive ion. And this is chiral. Now sulfur can also act as a chiral atom. Look at this one. Now even though there are two double bond O's, but those are isotopes, and the moment you change isotopes, the molecule will become chiral. Look at this. This is a tertiary amine oxide. It's chiral. This is a silicon compound. Chiral. This is a phosphorus compound. Again, 4 groups, tetrahedral, chiral. And of course, it is not necessary that you need to only have tetrahedral systems. You just need systems which are dissymmetric. Doesn't matter what the shape is. As long as they are dissymmetric, they don't have any alternate axis of symmetry, then the molecule will be chiral. Now let's look at the reverse of this. These are chiral compounds now that I'm going to show you, which do not have chiral centers. Okay, no chiral centers here. So now let's look at these examples, and some of them we've already seen before. Now there are some unique types of compounds that are chiral but do not contain any chiral atom. And this, we start with allenes. Now we have already done allenes, if you remember, in geometrical isomers. We talked about which allenes can show geometrical isomerism. Look at this one. I've already explained this to you. These two groups and these two groups are in different planes. And if you cannot understand why they are so, please go and look at part 3b, where I've discussed other types of geometrical isomers. There I've talked about allenes. There I've talked about why they are in different planes. So you need to go and check that out. But I can of course show you a model and help you with this. So remember, there are two double bonds, and these two groups despite being same are in different planes. So look at this molecule. This is that molecule. Can you see these two are out of the plane of the table, and these two are lying on the table, and these are the two double bonds. This is a double bond, this is a double bond. This is that carbon in the middle, and these two groups and these two groups are in different plane. So this is a kind of an allene which is now going to be chiral, because remember, it doesn't have any plane of symmetry. You try to cut it from here, and you won't be able to do it, because if you cut it from this side, it will cut through these two half, but then it will come through here, and this is red and this is white. If you were to cut it from this side, from this plane, these two will get cut into half, but then that will go through the middle of this, and these two are different, and therefore there is no plane of symmetry. This molecule is dissymmetric, but it doesn't have any chiral atom. In fact, there is no atom which is tetrahedral. For chirality, you need at least a tetrahedral carbon, and therefore you don't have any chiral atom, and yet the molecule is chiral. The terminal groups are in perpendicular planes, so no geometrical isomerism. Because of this, the molecule is chiral, because as you know, it is dissymmetric, and remember, it does not have any chiral carbon or any other chiral atom. But what happens when we increase a double bond more? So when we increase the double bond, one more double bond, look what happens. Now here you notice the example. See, carbon, there are 3 double bonds. Now these two are in the same plane. Now look at this model. Can you see double bond 1, double bond 2, double bond 3, and these two are lying on the plane of the table, and therefore this molecule is achiral, because this is the plane of symmetry. This will cut the orange or the red, if you can call it red and white, half, and it will also cut these two into half. As you can notice, there is a plane of symmetry here. The terminal groups are in the same plane. Plane of symmetry exists. Allenes with even number of double bonds and different terminal groups are chiral, and the rest are achiral. So remember, if you have an allene and if there are even number of double bonds connected together, the terminal groups will be in different planes. But besides that, remember, these two terminal groups and these two terminal groups must be different. These two should be different, these two should be different. They can be same towards each other, but they should be A and B, they should be A and B, or C and D. And then the molecule will be chiral. But if you have odd number of double bonds accumulated, the terminal groups invariably will be in one plane. So whether they are same or different doesn't matter. That will be itself the plane of symmetry. The next one we go is pyro compound. This is also something that we have seen. So look at this example. And this ring, if it is vertical, this will be horizontal. And if these two are horizontal, these two will be vertical. Now let's check this out. See this. Can you see this? If one ring is vertical, the other ring is horizontal, and these two groups are horizontal, these two are vertical. So if you try to cut like this, it will go through the middle of this. If you try to cut like this, it will go through the middle of this. No plane of symmetry, dissymmetric, this is chiral. And remember, in these cases, whenever you have a molecule which is chiral, it will automatically not show geometrical isomerism. I'm talking about allenes and spiranes. So the terminal groups are in different planes. Chiral due to dissymmetry, no chiral carbon, remember. And what happens when you have three rings? Automatically they come in the same plane. This is also something that we have seen. Look at this one. So as you can see this, so now I've tried to zoom this out and I hope you can see them in one plane. They are in one plane. The terminal groups are in the same plane, plane of symmetry exists. Spiranes with even number rings and different terminal groups are chiral, rest are achiral. Now let's look at substituted biphenyls. Now biphenyls are two benzene rings attached to each other by a single bond. But if both have ortho positions with heavy groups, these are remember pretty big groups. Even though Br may look like a single atom, but it's a huge atom. I may look like a single atom, but it's a huge atom. And if both ortho positions of both these benzene rings are substituted by big groups, due to steric hindrance, one ring will go out of plane and therefore one will be horizontal plane, one will be vertical plane. Both rings are in perpendicular planes due to steric hindrance. The molecule is dissymmetric, so it is chiral. And let me also show you the order of steric hindrance for different types of groups. And this is based on observation. So what happens if there are three rings? Now remember, be very careful when you deal with these molecules. On the face of it, you will realize that these two are similar groups. This is dissimilar. So if we cut through the plane of this one, then it will be symmetrical. But it won't be symmetrical because Br and Et are different. And these two groups are different. So you cannot cut like this. If you were to cut like this, Me, Et, IMe, they won't match. And if you were to cut like this, in the plane of the middle ring, Br and Et are different. Br and Et are different. So it's not going to work out. So the molecule is dissymmetric. It's only when these two are same and these two are same that you will find this to be symmetrical. Let me give you one more. Try this. So can you see Br same? So cut through the plane of this, every atom here will get cut into half and then it will go like this and there are two Brs, this will be symmetrical. Try this. Now, again, the tendency is when you do these examples, the moment you see two Brs, you will say, okay, I'll cut from this plane. Perfectly fine. It will get cut like this. And the best part is this group's at the right at the end. So we will have this belief that when I cut through this plane, it will go like this, it will cut and these two are Br symmetrical. It goes here and it will cut this into half. But remember, this carbon is chiral. Can you see that? This carbon is chiral. If this carbon were achiral, if it was CH3, then this would be symmetrical molecule. But the fact that you have a chiral carbon, one chiral carbon without any flipping, the molecule will be chiral. So if you were to cut like this, actually, when you cut through this carbon, you won't get a symmetrical structure. So the molecule is chiral because it has one chiral carbon. Another example is called the hexahelicene, and it's a weird thing. It looks like this. Everything looks fine. Only difference is these two groups are in different planes. So I'm going to show you a 3D model. So if you were to simply look at this, can you see they're different? They're in different planes. So if they were in the same plane, it would be great, but the rings are so close, they end up being in different planes. So the molecule is dissymmetric and therefore chiral. In fact, you can even look at cyclooctene. Now cyclooctene has two isomers, cis and trans. This is the cis form and perfectly symmetrical because you can cut it into two identical halves, even though it's not exactly an octagon. But if you were to assume it is octagon, you can simply cut it like this and you'll be able to see it. But the trans form looks like this. Now you must understand what the trans form is. This is carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no carbon here, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's no carbon here. This is one single double bond. This is one single bond. There's no carbon here. So you can assume the red one is above the black one. So it's the trans, and the trans one is optically active. There is no symmetry there. The cis form has plane of symmetry, so it is achiral. The trans form is dissymmetric, so it is chiral. So now let's do some questions. Let's do some examples. You need to comment on the optical activity of the following. Try and figure this out. What about this one? What do you think? Well, if you just saw the biphenyls right now, this is similar to that. Because of the two ortho groups, it will go out of plane. Now when it goes out of plane, remember this would be vertical plane, let's say, and this will be horizontal plane. So if I cut it through the vertical plane, everything will get cut into half. But when I cut through this, even though these two are different, this guy is going to differentiate. So when the cut goes through here, you have a COH and you have an H here. It doesn't work. If you had a COH here, then this would have been the plane of symmetry. So right now it is optically active, no plane of symmetry. Let's look at this one. Again, they will go out of plane. And the moment they go out of plane, let's assume this is vertical. Cut through this, everything gets cut into half. But when you cut, it will cut through here and there is no symmetry. Optically active. And you need to pause the video. The moment I give you the example, pause it. Pause the video now and then check. So again, they go out of plane. Let's say this is vertical. This will get cut into half, no problem. But the cut will go through here. No symmetry. Optically active. Let's try this. Pause. Now obviously they will go out of plane. Can you see the MEs are so close even in drawing? So let's assume this goes vertical. So this will get cut into two halves, no problem. And the cut will go through here and both halves are identical, optically inactive. Alright, what about this one? Well, let's say this is horizontal, this is vertical, this is horizontal. Cut it through the horizontal plane. So these two will get cut into half, no problem. This is vertical. So this will get cut like this. And what will happen? This half and this half are similar. Try this. Now this is similar to this, but I've just put a BR here and now everything go haywire. There is no symmetry. Pause the video. Now, on the face of it, it looks symmetrical because you cut from here, but this is similar to that the molecule I showed you, hexahelicine, these two MEs will go out of plane, and because these two will go out of plane, they will not be in the same plane and there will be no symmetry. So optically active. Now the moment you see benzene rings, you have a tendency to look at biphenyl. But remember, it's an alene. It's basically alene with even number of double bonds, and the terminal carbons have different groups. This is different, this is different, this is different, this is different. And they are optically active. You don't have to bother about any biphenyl system here. Well, two more. Try this. What do you think? Well, it is a spirane kind of a thing. In fact, not spirane kind of a thing, it's a spirane only. The spiro compound, this is one plane, this is another plane. Let this be horizontal, this be vertical. If this is horizontal, cut through the horizontal plane. These two will get cut into half, and when this gets cut like this, it is identical. It will be inactive. And the last one coming up. So again, this is a spiro compound, and this is in one plane, this is another plane, but these two groups are different. So if this were horizontal and this were vertical, cut through horizontal, these two will get cut into half, but the cut will go here, and these two are different. So the terminal groups are different. Spirane, even number rings, optically active. So that's it from my side on video number 10, optical activity, and we are actually done with optical activity now. In the next video, we'll be starting with conformational isomers, and hopefully we'll wrap that in about 2 or 3 videos. And so I hope you were able to understand the optical activity without chiral centers. You were able to understand optically being optically inactive with a chiral center, and you're also able to see other atoms being chiral centers also. So remember, chiral center is the key, not chiral carbon necessarily. So with that, we come to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this and understood whatever was required. With that, this is Kalyan Kumar signing off. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye, and thank you for watching this.